if you are a company with even more than one person, I can guarantee that you do onboarding. I'm going to show you how to build a custom onboarding solution in Coda in just 20 minutes. Even if you don't need that, I'm going to show a ton of advanced Coda tricks and best practices, so follow along. All right, we got a blank doc and we're going to start building now. So let's just call this onboarding. And we're going to need 3 different main tables. So let's build those real fast. The first is going to be DB staff. These are going to be the people that you want to onboard. Next up, we are going to have something I'm going to call DB template tasks. Right, and so I'm using DB for database. It's important just to name your original tables really, really well, and this is the naming convention that I use. The last that we're gonna do is gonna be called another table, and that table is going to be DB actual tasks. So let's give them some names. Let's do John and Susie and Sam. Okay. There we go. Now with template tasks, what we're going to do, these are not actually the tasks that are going to be checked off. That's going to be DB actual tasks. But these are going to be the common tasks that each staff member needs to do. So let's call this task. And let's call this do days after hire. And then we will do bump. Okay, so let's call this, maybe it's get an email address. Maybe we are having them sign off for company computer. Maybe you're having your staff members sign up for HR system and you want them to sign up for direct deposit. Okay. And now we're going to define a days after hire, AKA this is going to help us with due dates later on. So essentially we're saying how many days after you've been hired should this be done? So maybe this is like 1 day, right? That's really important. Direct deposit is at least a week. So 7 days, company computer, that's pretty important. Let's do that at least 2. HR system, a little less important. Let's do that at least 10. So these are the templated tasks that each person is going to have to do. Now though, we have to define, we have to essentially create a way to track tasks against people, right? Because John, Susie, and Sam each need to do one of these things. So what we're going to do here is make a third called actual tasks. We're going to have the task itself. We're going to have the staff member responsible for the task. We're going to have a done checkbox because they're going to be able to check done or not done. And lastly, we are going to have a due date. All right, and here's where the magic comes in. So this is where we're going to use some more advanced Coda formulas, specifically for each, to be able to populate these automatically. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a one called populate tasks. This is going to be a button column. I'm going to open this up and choose button. Once I'm on here, button actions have a ton of different things you can do with them, of course, but we're not even going to use any of these. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a formula, and we are now going to use our ForEach formula. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to reference the template tasks, DB template tasks. What that gives me is a list of values. Notice that each value has multiple things in it, right? These are the list of rows, and it has both the task name itself and it has how many days afterwards. So we're going to do something for each of those. For each is a way to run a loop, aka to do something multiple times. For this one, because we have a list of 4 items, this formula is going to do something 4 times. What do we want to do each time? We want to add a row to the DB actual tasks, right? But if we just do that, it's just going to add 4 rows. We need to define what values are actually going to go in those rows. So we're going to say, hey, Coda, when you add this row, can you go into the task column and can you add the current value? Current value references during my loop, right? It's going to loop through this one, this one, this one, and this one. So when I say current value, I say take this entire row and insert it into the task column. Okay, so that's what current value references. Next up, we're going to say to the staff, do this row. So every single time you add a staff member, add John if I click this button. Or if I click Susie's button, every single time to the staff column, add Susie. Next up, what we're going to do is we're going to say the due date, and this part's pretty fun. the due date is going to be referencing. So let's set here a hire date, right? Because everyone's going to get hired on a different date. And let's just put a few dates in there. Let's do hired here, and let's say this person was hired here. Okay. So when I click this button, I'm going to go into the formula and we're going to say, let's set the due date as this row dot hire date plus current value. Current value, remember that's green. The colors even help us here because it's showing that's coming from this green table. But the current value is a row value. We don't want to add a row value. You can't add row values, right? You have to add with math. So we're going to say current value dot days after hire. We're going to pull out that number value. All right, let's see what happens. There might be a bug. We're building this live. Let's see. Let's populate tasks. When I do that, all right. What we got is this. We got tasks, 4 tasks created for John with different due dates. You'll know sign up for HR system is due 7/1 because that is due 10 days after he was hired, and he was hired on 6/21. So notice how it's creating those due dates. Why this allows us to also edit these, right? Maybe let's set this to a date column actually. First, these are the default dates, but maybe someone gets sick, right? Maybe John gets sick on the very first day, and so now we have to move that back. This just allows us to say, you know what, John, actually, this will be due on Monday for you. Totally fine, okay? Done. We need to turn this to a checkbox so that they can actually check them off. And then staff, we need to turn these types to relation types. So relation to DB staff, right? Because then what this does, what this will allow us to do is to take this staff member column and create a column here. This says linked relations. It's going to connect those 2 tables for us. So let's create that column and let's go see what happens. Now that I've created this column, now I have DB actual tasks. So we'll call them this person's tasks, right? And now all of those are in there for us. Notice I can click the same for Susie and for Sam. All right. So now I have all their 4 tasks. This is going to be really powerful because it's going to allow us to move into John's row and see just John's tasks. I'm going to edit this layout, make it look a bit different. All right. So let's take this notes. I don't want that here. I don't want the hidden column or the descriptions, and I'm going to put this here. All right. So now I can go into John, and obviously I don't need his thing. Let's do that. Let's do this. Boom. All right, there we go. So now I can key into any one of these people and I can see their tasks and knock them off individually. Boom, boom, right? But that doesn't affect his tasks. John still has his own things. But here's the next issue, and stick with me, because if you just take this and run with it, you're going to run into a lot of issues. So this is what we're really going to want to do. Let's say that your company, you're growing, right? You're growing dynamically and quickly, and you're evolving. So obviously the templated tasks that you have are going to need to change as well. So let's say that you get one more task, and that's called come to a social event, you know, and that should be completed at least within the first 2 weeks. What about these people you've already populated it for, right? If we click this again, you'll notice what it does is, it adds all 4, right? We don't want that to happen. What we want it to do is just add the tasks that they haven't been added to yet. So we're going to modify this formula a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to pop this open to make editing easier. And then we're going to press this auto format button, which is going to allow it to, once again, not just be this squish condensed text. So here we go. We're going to modify what we're looping through. Right now, we're just always looping through the entire lists of tasks. So we're going to modify that. Let's zoom in a little bit. Instead of looping through the entire list of templated tasks, we just want to loop through the tasks that this person has not yet been assigned to. So how you change that is you filter it. You say, hey, instead of just giving me the whole table, only give me part of the table. And I want you to give me it where the current value is inside of actual, what do we call it? This person's task dot not. Okay. So there we go. Now let's zoom back out to see this. So what this is going to say is it says, hey, instead of just looping through every single time through the entire list of tasks, instead go look at the list of tasks and figure out where the current value, aka the task itself, is not inside of the ones that they've already been assigned. And then for each of those, go ahead and add it. So now you'll notice that, let's say I go here and I let's delete all of Susie's, right? Goodbye, Susie's tasks. Susie doesn't have any tasks, right? But this will populate Susie's tasks. Boop. Notice that has 5 now. She has all of them. But notice that John doesn't have any. So we can do boop. Notice how that just populates the remaining number. So that's going to allow for this more flexible system. But again, there's a couple things we want to do here to make it more app-like. Right now, it's technically functional, but it's not pretty, and it doesn't really feel or work like an app, and it's going to feel frustrating for you if you're using it. So let's go ahead and populate these, or do some stuff to this button. First of all, let's make the label conditional, and we're going to say if this person's task dot count. So if the number of tasks is equal to db template task dot count, then we know that this person has all tasks at least assigned, and we can say all tasks assigned, right? And then if not, we're going to say assign tasks. Okay, that will allow us to do that. And lastly, we're going to just disable it because this is confusing that there's a button here that does nothing. So we're going to just show that this button shouldn't really do anything by a formula and the disable criteria in the buttons. So let's say if this person's task dot count is equal to db template tasks dot count. Great. So now you'll see that that works there. But if we go ahead and erase John's tasks, you'll notice it says assign tasks. He already has 1, but it's going to assign the other 4 he does not yet have. Boom. Good to go. A couple other things now. We want to be able to visualize progress. So let's start turning this. We have the basic structure down, but now what we're going to do is start turning this into an actual application. Okay. So here we go. What we're going to do first is let's add a progress bar. Let's see how far they are into. So let's call this onboard progress. What we want is we want to figure out how many tasks they have done versus not done. So first, let's just make a little bit of these tasks clicked off, you know? So we actually have something to visualize. Let's give them all the way. So what we're gonna be able to do is access that information. So this person's tasks, right? And what we can essentially say is we can say this person's tasks dot count is 5, right? So we wanna take a percentage, which is the amount they have not done. So I just copied that. And we're gonna say this person's tasks dot filter. So instead of just giving me all the person's tasks, filter them to where done is equal to true, right? Only give me those. And now count them and divide that by the total number of tasks, which is gonna be 0.4, right? Lastly, for a progress bar, we're actually gonna need to take this, which is a percentage, and turn it into a whole number. So let's do this. And I'm gonna say product. So this multiplies things of this times 100. Great. 40, 20, 100, not that helpful. Let's turn this now into an actual progress bar. That's going to be under number, progress. We can even make it a little bit prettier by going column options and kind of have this. So now we can see at a glance where these individuals are in their onboarding progress. We can do all sorts of stuff from here too. Now we can essentially turn these into cards, right? And we can see that. We can run automations based off these. For example, let's say that you have tasks. You can format these, conditional format, to where due date is, we can just say something like due date is less than today. Ooh, we can format those as red, right? So now it's this indication that like, we need and done is equal to false. All right, so what that's gonna do is that's gonna help us see, you know, who has tasks that are overdue. maybe no one does. Oh, he's done them all. There we go. It's taken a long time, and I've actually structured this doc so it works way more like an app. And I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a second. But first, I just wanted to say, now that we have this raw structure complete, there's so many things you can do here, just really dependent on what your company and your team needs, right? We could use the Slack pack, for example, and we could run automations that say, hey, if a user's task is due today, send me a list of all those tasks as a reminder. Or maybe you can use the Gmail pack and send your onboarding staff reminders. Hey, just as a reminder, today you have these 3 tasks due. There's so many different ways that you can help extend this onboarding system to meet your company's needs. And that's what I love about Coda, right? With this simple onboarding structure, you can now take it, add in any integrations, packs, or workflows to make it very specific for your team. But right now, let me show you real fast what a finished system fully looks like. All right, so I've taken some time and taken the raw databases that we have and just added some just user experience, workflows, buttons, colors on top to make this feel much more like an app. So what we got here is staff. And if you want to grab this template, you can do so in the description below. But I'm just going to show you some things that I would have done if I was making this for myself, right? Just added some colors, added some insight that's at a glance. We can see overdue tasks, add buttons that make this easier for your team to kind of pop these things open. Add the ability to add new staff, give them names, assign tasks, right? Buttons just so that makes things easy. We have a place where all tasks, so as a onboarding team or as an HR team, you can come in and see all the tasks at once. I've also added the ability to add one-off tasks, right? Because you have these normal templated tasks, but what if you just need new tasks that are specific to a person, right? So now it has the ability to sign the new paper, right? And this is going to be just for Sam, and it's going to be due on this date. So this gives you the ability to add one-off tasks as well as templated tasks as well. Shows you how many days ago that things were due, tells you and helps you see if things are due today as well on the current day. You've also got your task template to add more tasks as we go. And then of course you have your databases in the background. So these are the raw databases that we've been working with. Normally as well, I would go ahead and hide this. But now with that hidden, you've got all the different pieces you need for a complete onboarding template. Hope you guys enjoy. Leave questions or comments in the description below, or grab this template in the description as well. Adios.